is the third Go Solis webinar in our series that we're putting on this year. And title of this one is our new hybrid energy storage inverter with LG Chem RESU batteries. And so what we're going to focus on today is how we can use these, not only introduce these products, but how we can use them to grow your solar business. So I hope you find it interesting. The information that we have today, we got some great content for you. Your presenters today are myself, Terrence, and we have Lynn Tran from LG Chem. Lynn, you want to say hello?
Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining.
Great. Glad to have you with us today. Bill Brooks from Brooks Engineering. Hello.
How's it going?
Great to see you today, Bill. Well, here's our agenda for today. I'll just introduce Ginlong a little bit, and I really am looking forward to showing you this new set of energy storage inverters, these new battery inverters we have on a global platform. But before I get carried away and having you use these hybrids wherever you go, we want to really get a handle on these battery projects. What's required? What you need to do to make sure that you're getting the right information from your customers to understand how to size these systems properly. Yeah, and so then we'll talk about the LG, these RESU batteries, perfect for the house, and how we can put these two systems together, the Solis inverters and LG Chem, into a solution, a package that really can serve a lot of different use cases. We'll finish up with system design and some of the available services you have to help you out as you go forward and putting Solis into your business and LG Chem batteries into your business. Solis, Ginlong Technologies is the name of the company, and we have been in business now for over 15 years. You can see we were founded in Ningbo, China back in 2005, and have grown the business through the years. We were recently listed on the Shenzhen Stock Exchange, and probably one of the most exciting new things for us is our new factory. We're adding 15 gigs of added capacity to our factory, the latest milestone for the company. Today, as I noted, we're a publicly traded company. You can see the main factory there, solar all over the roof. I love that. We're the first Chinese company actually to get that. Just a fun fact, they get that UL certification back in 2009 here in the US. And now we also, we're trying to bring our brand name out a little bit, and we have kind of been running under the radar as we are a white label provider for both Sunrun and Canadian Solar here in the United States. But globally, over 10 gigs shipped and in 100 countries with over 1,000 employees. And the company is growing even today. Based on, generally, our reliability record. We own the factory, we control quality and costs in that factory, and we have a number of third-party validation, really, that confirms our claim to be a reliable PV string inverter. In addition to the products, we also talk about our service platform. We have a great global contact center now based on a lot of work that we've done right here in the United States. Actually, this platform was developed right here in the US and has now been taken up by the entire company globally. The portals that are available for our customers are really, I think, what attracts folks to this, getting a warm body on the phone, being able to access these portals and get information right away to solve issues. Either, you can Google our alarm codes and then look for an app note or something, or a little small video that you could watch on the way to the job to make sure you're ready when you get there. You go to our website, we even have a little AI bot that we're trying out to help answer some of the more frequently asked questions on this platform. This is really kind of what we're most proud of, is that you can see that people are spending about a minute to get through the menu tree, and then we're able to get that person on the phone with you and solve issues in around 6 minutes. I hope this is something that's a little comforting to some folks out there that are having issues with other service teams. We're very proud to, not only we don't take as many calls as others do, but when we do, we have professionals on the line that can help right away. So let's get to the kind of the star of the show here. The storage hybrid inverter. It's one box solution really. You have everything in one box, both the storage inverter and the grid tie inverter. This inverter can work as a regular grid tie inverter with no batteries on it, or it can work as a battery storage inverter with no PV attached. And so it's really a versatile box. And Solis is offering here in the United States a wide variety of them, from 5K all the way up to 10K. That gives you the opportunity to really put in very small PV systems and very large. This wide MPPT, which is featured across many of our inverter blinds, 90 volts it'll operate, so you can do 4 panel systems, and literally a 1.5K array if you wanted to. One of the distinguishing features, though, of this, and some of my colleagues have commented recently, is this 7-inch screen. It's really kind of industry leading, and something that we're trying here at Solis. We've done this on our commercial inverters in the past, but we really tried to focus this screen technology that we've developed for the hybrid product that we're offering here in the U.S. And it truly is a pleasure to use. You pull up a standard and you get all this data for that standard right there on the screen, and then you get a nice interface there to kind of give you a brief overview of what's going on with your entire system. Great stuff. These inverters have the integrated SunSpec transmitter in them, 10 millisecond backup switching, very quick. And of course, what we're all here to hear about are what can this thing do? And indeed, it can act as an off-grid inverter. It's not really specifically designed for that, but indeed, it's got an off-grid mode, and can, with a large enough solar array and battery, you can be indefinitely off-grid. Again, this is a partial home kind of solution, as opposed to something like a generator that is a whole home solution. We may want to get into a little bit of that, but indeed, this inverter can keep your family secure in an off-grid situation. Now, its default position or default setting is to do max solar consumption. So typically, it will collect all the solar kilowatt hours that you can possibly stuff into the battery, and then it will discharge those at night to reduce your exposure to electric bills after the sun goes down. So that's its real main purpose, is to increase revenue and to maximize your use of all the solar kilowatt hours that you can collect. And then, of course, it also can do what a lot of folks are looking at here in California and other places where they have time of use billing. And when you have, let's say, 3-to-1 time of use billing, it really pays off to have an inverter that you can set different time blocks for discharge and charging, and indeed this inverter can do that. So a lot of great working modes, really a versatile inverter. You've got US-based service team that's trained on the LG solutions. You've got a great battery to work with here, 90% recyclable, dual battery installations, all possible. And so it's got some, I think, some advantages over others. One is the efficiency at the low end. You can put small arrays, and the efficiency at the high end, where you can put very large arrays compared to competitors. And no matter what size you choose, you're going to get the high AC grid output rating on all the models, the 6,000 watts output, even on our smallest 5K. Low noise, that's going to be nice if it's near the garage or something like that, and fast switching, as I mentioned before. I'm just going to do a little, kind of a kill sheet here on compared to one of our most popular hybrid solutions we see in the marketplace today. And you can see that we have more models available, and they do have 2 years more on their warranty. They're a popular solution here in the United States, but I think you'll find that the main competitive advantages of this particular Solis LG solution is it's a little lower cost. You get higher output, even on the low-end models. The min is lower and the max is higher than you can do with the competitor's product. Little faster switching time, a little tighter enclosure, and as I say, that US-based service team, I hope you'll find comforting if there's ever any issues. So I want to get to really our next speaker here, Bill. Bill, we're talking about different use cases for these types of systems, and utility support is one. I can imagine maybe the APS guys over there in Arizona in their solar communities setting up systems with batteries that they can use for their own revenue streams or stabilizing the grid especially. But that's sort of, outside what we're talking about here today. And peak shaving is another one where, it's often used at commercial sites, but mainly what we're talking about are residential issues, and that's what we're talking about with these next five. Bill, the time of use billing and the self-supply is what we thought was always going to be the best reasons for getting these types of systems. But now we're seeing, with circumstances a little bit out of our control, that long-term and short-term emergency backup is becoming so much more reason why these systems are being used.
All right. Well, thanks, Terrence. And Terrence is going to be advancing the slides for me. Just hopefully that'll keep things smoother. We got a bunch of folks on the phone. And hi, everybody. Good to be back talking about these issues. And so my perspective is going to be coming from experience in working with what we call multi-mode inverters in the electrical code. And I'm on code making panel for the National Electrical Code, and we set the rules for how these things are supposed to work and operate. And a long time ago, way back in 1999, when we were partying with Prince, there was a little thing that was kind of in the news, and it was called Y2K, and everybody was worried about, as things turned over to 2000, that the lights were going to go out. And so it happened to be at the same time that the California rebate program was really getting underway and moving forward, and the equipment that was available at the time were battery-based inverters. And so nearly 100% of all of the early systems that went into the state of California were battery-based systems. And certainly one of the major concerns that was causing people to purchase these systems was losing power. And so the early training materials and things like that we did were focused on people doing backup power. And so my discussion is going to focus on that one issue. There are many other methods and use cases, as Terrence just talked about, but this is the one use case that, if you don't get it right, will cause certainly the greatest amount of consternation on the part of your customer. And so really, really important to understand the issues involved. And so that's why I got this old Uncle Bill persona here. Pull up a chair and listen to some experience on this particular issue, because if you're not willing to listen about this issue here, you're going to have some very upset customers. And so just as we go into this, you see my logo in the bottom left-hand corner there. For some reason, it's larger than LG Chem's. I didn't do that. That's not me. But if you look at that logo, it's PV on its side. So the red is P and the blue is a V. And so just in case somebody didn't know that, and that's a 30-degree angle facing south. So that's intended to help people understand how to do solar. But been doing this for 32 years this week. So I started my first solar class 32 years ago. And about 23 years ago, we were doing lots of systems in California, and they were all battery-based. And really understanding the equipment and setting customer expectations are critical for the success of these things. And few, if any, quite frankly, customers have an appreciation for backup power systems, how they work, and what their limitations are, and what they can do. I mean, it's not all negative. It's not like, oh my gosh, these things can't do anything. That's not the case at all. It's just that if we don't understand the limitations of the equipment, Americans want it all. They're spoiled rotten. We are spoiled rotten. I'm spoiled rotten. And certainly our customers are spoiled rotten. And so trying to give customers everything they want will most likely end up making disgruntled, disappointed customers. It's happened over and over and over again. So So the thing to kind of back up, when we talk about backup power, you got to back up to the basics, and you got to look at what in the world's going on here and what am I really trying to do. So we think about what electricity has done to make us happy and what things we can live without in a power outage. So it's kind of a weird thing to think about, but it's like, okay, if I didn't have electricity, what would be my first thing that I'm going to miss? And so as we look at this, the first thing that people miss in an outage is light. The second thing is usually the refrigerator. I've got a bunch of stuff with the refrigerator. Now I'm worried about the refrigeration. And I went through Hurricane Fran in North Carolina when I lived there 25 years ago. And we had power outage that lasted 7 days. We were 100 miles inland in a hurricane. And I lived about 2 miles from the state capitol. And so in a suburban, nearly urban environment, I was without power for a week. And everybody pulled out their refrigerator, stuff that was in the refrigerator, and we had hurricane barbecues. Okay, now I'm in California, and we have these wind events that have come through, and we've shut down the power. And I just went through a 4-day outage this past fall, a 2-day and a 4-day outage, separate outages for wind events. And there you go again. Now we have a wind event barbecue. So everybody pulls their stuff out and has barbecues because it's all going to go bad anyway. And so that's kind of expensive, and you eat too much, and it's not good for you. So anyway, it's better to maybe have a refrigerator going. Third thing is the internet. Probably higher than refrigerator, but we don't really want to admit that. So we lose the internet, we lose connectivity, and we start to shake. We get the shakes, and that's not good for you. Get a little nervous, maybe get a little edgy. Fourth is TV. And if you can keep the beer cold and the game on, you can pretty much, that's the opiate of the masses, and you can keep people calm, and they don't pull out their guns and start shooting. They do that in California. It's weird. They don't like to talk about guns, but they have guns, and they pull them out and shoot them. So anyway, that's a little bit, a little tongue in cheek, but that's kind of where things are. Next, we consider dedicated short use loads like garage door openers. A lot of folks didn't think about the fact that there was actually a few people that died in the Santa Rosa fires. An older lady I know that passed away because she couldn't get her garage door to open. She was in her car, and she was overcome by the fire, the wildfire, because she couldn't get her garage door open. And she didn't think to drive through the door or anything like that. So garage door opener. Now, all your garage door openers have an emergency release, but a lot of people, have you ever used that before? I've never used mine. So a lot of people don't even know how to open a garage door without pushing the button. Have you tried that? Maybe it's something you should try. Furnace fan. That's one we often don't think about. If it's cold in the wintertime, you got ice storms. One of the main reasons for backup system is in areas of the country that have a lot of ice storms. Certainly in the Midwest and Northeast, we got lots of ice storms, and damaged power lines, and we can have some pretty long outages during that time. And it's cold when those things happen, and so the first thing you miss after a couple hours, that your house gets cold. So if you could run your furnace fan, that's a fairly short use. It turns on and off and turns on and off, and there's something you can put on your backup system. Coffee. Again, people get edgy without their coffee. Be careful though. We're starting to add loads that are getting to be fairly large in the overall scheme of things. So we got to be very careful if we're going to add those loads and how we do it. And so we're going to talk about how we do these things. Maybe a microwave, again, got to be careful. Solis says don't get crazy. Getting into a discussion, backing the customer down from a short list to a short list is the wrong approach. You got to do it the other way around. Just don't do the back people down. You got to start from, okay, if you had nothing else, lights. Okay, let's start with lights. And then if you had lights and you could do something else, what would be your next thing that you would pick? And we go up the list rather than down the list, because if you try to back people down, you're always going to be fighting them on what they can and can't have and all this kind of stuff. And it gets it into a negative discussion. You don't want a negative discussion on this issue. It wants to be a very positive discussion about how you keep the lights on, how you keep the power going, how you brag to your friends that you were able to watch the game when they were in the dark, stuff like that. Okay, so there was a couple items there I might have missed, but this is important. So the customer's rarely right. I mean, you can tell them they're right, but just don't actually believe them. Start one load at a time and work your way up. And this is something you can do without having to run the system. Actually, initially, we can test how much power is going to be needed and where the loads are by simply just turning off the power to the house and turning all the circuit breakers off and turning one circuit breaker on at a time and working our way up to the point where we have a system that's going to work. And so again, we have lighting. A lot of our circuits are lighting. We have a lot of lighting circuits that are dedicated lighting circuits in houses. Newer houses are easier to back up than older houses. Why is that? Because the National Electrical Code has a lot more requirements for dedicated circuits for different types of applications. Things like your refrigerator has to be on a separate circuit. Your microwave has to be on a separate circuit. Your lighting has to be on a separate circuit. These are all separate circuits, and that's something we can thank the electrical code for, because older homes, you might have only had like 6 circuits in a 3-bedroom home. One of those circuits was all the outlets in the entire house was on one circuit. Well, that's not allowed anymore. Now we have maybe 4 or 5 circuits that are plug loads. Any outlet circuits you got to be very careful with, because why is that? Because we can plug stuff in, and people have a uncanny ability to find those circuits and plug stuff in. And normally what they do is they plug a heater in, and a heater or even a hair dryer, stuff like that, they can easily kill the process, turn the system off. And in big bold letters, really, really important not to rush the load selection stage of the project. Take your time, do it right. An extra hour now will save you days and days of unhappy, disgruntled customers, unmet expectations, people bad-mouthing you to their friends and stuff like that. It's just not worth it. You do it right up front, you set the expectations well, and you've got a really happy customer that's excited about the fact that they've got power when nobody else does, rather than being disgruntled about what they can't do, and which is a very American thing. So narrowing it down to what you actually can do, here's a great example of, this is just something I pulled off the internet, of the actual power consumption of different things. Most people don't understand what different appliances might use. Certainly air conditioners, central air conditioners, window air conditioners use way too much power. And so if you have a power outage in the summertime, open a window, turn on a box fan, a ceiling fan. Those things don't use nearly as much power. 800 watts is a lot for a ceiling fan. They're actually quite a bit less than that normally. Furnace fans, you can see in that 600 to 1,000 watt range, which in the wintertime, you're willing to do that. Radiant heaters, 1,300, 1,500 watts is really common. Now we go to household items. You can see obviously cell phone chargers and things like that. You need to have some kind of outlets. In fact, there are now USB outlets available. So maybe you have a USB outlet that you dedicate to cell phone charging, keeps people from plugging other things into it. Xbox, hey, you can satisfy your kids with Xboxes for fairly low amount of power. Hair dryers, not so much. In our 4-day outage, I have somebody staying at our house, and they turned the hair dryer on and it killed the system, knocked the power out. So they just didn't even think about it. Water heater, cannot run an electric water heater on these systems. That's absolutely off the list. So we're probably going to have cold water unless we have a propane or natural gas water heater. Just something you got to realize. Now, a sump pump, if it's for purposes of that are really important to maybe sewage for the sewer for the house, or maybe water protection for the basement or something like that, we may have to keep that on. Maybe 10% of houses have sump pumps and things like that. Satellite receivers, again, keeping the TV on, that's important. Usually a little less power, but again, here's just a list of things that you might look at. Let's go to the next slide. Obviously, the lower the power and the higher the priority, the better. And we're going to have to drop some things off the list that are too much. So we're on a detailed list of loads, carefully identify them. We want to locate the loads. Basically, go to your circuit breaker panel. Like I said, turn off all the branch circuit breakers. Turn the lighting circuit breaker on first. See what lights are able to run in the house. Turn the lights on. All the stuff on that would be intended to be operated. You may be there during the daytime, but pretend like it's nighttime. And turn on all the lights that people would have on, because you're trying to test this current on these circuits. And you're going to test them with a clamp-on AC current clamp-on meter. And you want to get, if I get the circuit going that goes to the lights, the fridge, the internet, the TV, furnace fan, garage door, those kinds of things. Now I'm going to run the garage door. I'm going to run the furnace. I'm going to get all these things operating so that I can actually test what the current is. I'm going to clamp on and get the current, and that current's going to be in amps, okay? And then I'm going to take that and I'm going to multiply it by the voltage. These are typically all 120 volt loads, and so it's going to be giving me volt amps. I multiply 120 volts times my amps and the total of my amps, and that's going to be my load, and that is going to be in volt amps, which is roughly equivalent to watts in general. In fact, it's going to be an more conservative number than watts, and it's the number that we really want. We want the volt amp number, so treat it like it's watts. Then we're going to record the currents for each circuit separately, make a list, and so we're going to look at a 3,000 watt max load when everything's running. When the garage door is running, the furnace fan's running, TV's on, internet's on, fridge is on. We're going to make sure all those things are running. No more than 3,000 watts on this system. And we want an average load of down at around 1,000 watts. So we have these peak loads like garage door and furnace fan, but when those things turn off, we don't want to have any more than 1,000 watts running on this system if we're using this type of a multi-mode hybrid inverter. Let's next slide. I think that's it for me.
Yeah, that's it for now, Bill. And we'll bring you back a little later as we get into more some of the design and installation issues. But for now, now we've got a kind of a good idea of what we're going to be doing with the system and the kinds of loads that we're going to have. And now just imagine that you're going forward with this 1,000 watt load. And I'd like to bring in Lynn Tran from LG Chem to talk a little bit about these battery systems and how you bring them forward to your customers and how you match them to the needs that you are recording. So, hey, Lynn, let's talk a little bit about LG Chem.
Hey, thanks, Terrence, and thank you, Mr. Brooks, for the great presentation so far. Thanks, everyone, for coming again. My name is Lynn Tran, and I'm responsible for LG Chem's first battery here in North America. And we're very happy to be able to introduce our relationship with Solis so that we can provide the more important piece of equipment in your solar business, the solar inverter, can be compatible with LG Chem. We understand that the inverter is the backbone of your company and that you need to have a solid, reliable piece of equipment in order for our battery to make sense. Once that's established, I will review LG Chem, but before anything gets started, if you're going to be, go ahead, Terrence. If you're going to be adopting lithium batteries for your solar business, first thing you need to do is choose a home battery. And the main thing is that you want to look for are safety, quality, and reliability. These are Class 9 hazardous materials, and you are going into someone's home, basically putting in a power plant. You're going to be looking for performance and uptime because these are your truck rolls that are going out there and your reputation on the line with unhappy customers. And you want it to be competitive. It has to be price competitive. It has to be a sellable brand on the market, and you want it to be repetitive. Solar batteries home batteries will grow your solar business. By how much, I don't know, but I'm confident that LG Chem can help grow your RESU battery business. So when you're onboarding a new battery, a new home battery into your repertoire, all I ask is that please do safety due diligence. When we launched our product on the market, we learned that no one was aware of the DOT and hazmat regulations surrounding lithium batteries. Whatever battery that you use for the well-being of the market, please do your due diligence and provide this training to your employees. These are very significant fines from DOT. And if you reach out to me, I'm more than happy to provide you with all the reference materials that will help make this learning curve as quickly, to go over as quickly as possible. And I even have a discount code that you can use to get your DOT certification. So first things first, if you're going to be using a home battery, do it the right way. So next, to choose a home battery, it needs to be easy to sell, easy to install, and easy to pick. And that's both from your side and the consumer side. So LG Chem, we're a long-standing company. We have a really good reputation in the market, and we've been doing lithium batteries for 24 years. We are a chemical company. Make no mistake, we are only a chemical company. But for homeowners, they're going to recognize our brand. They're going to be able to rely on our technology because it's been proven. It's been proven to be commercially viable. And it's really small, compact size. You don't have to uproot your home in order to accommodate a battery installation. If your customers are not ready to go into the home battery space, home batteries will never let you lose the solar deal. You can always go through and install a solar system as battery ready. It takes a lot of pressure off the homeowner, and then you have an upsell in your back pocket, and those are the easiest and best deals to get, right? Easy to install. Bill went through quite precisely what we recommend to installers as well. Ask a homeowner, what are you going to do when things go wrong? What are your essentials? And with some of the instructions that Bill gave, the RESU battery is very easy to install. The more complicated stuff is with the solar system and the solar inverter, but the battery is easy to install, and it's very flexible. We're coming out with new batteries this year. We want to have multiple inverter options and multiple battery sizes, and again, we have to make our battery compatible with the equipment that works well in your business. So this is why we're happy to announce our relationship with Solis. Easy to choose. Brand recognition is really important in an unknown industry. And to consumers, there's not a lot of information out there. And if you hear across any homeowner knocking on your door about a battery, they're more likely going to mention Tesla's Powerwall. But what's really important to let the homeowner know is that the LG battery RESU is the #1 battery worldwide. We've sold about 30,000 units here to North America, and that is the biggest number that I can find that's credible out there in the market. We manufacture worldwide, and we have about 150 gigawatt hours online by the end of this year. So when I tell folks to come across the Powerwall, don't compete product to product, compete company to company. A battery is a battery, but the company behind the battery is what sells the RESU battery to homeowners. So make no mistake, a lithium battery is an electrochemical storage device, and so it makes sense that whoever makes your home battery is a chemical company. And that's exactly what LG started as in 1947. First product was face cream, lo and behold. And they continued in the chemical space, pioneering technologies, and then they leaped over into electronics. And that is the LG electronics, the TVs, the cell phones, the refrigerators. That's sort of the LG that we think of. But what LG really started out as is LG Chem, as a chemical company, and that mother seed of LG is what LG Chem is now. So LG dives into electronics, and lo and behold, a lot of electronics use batteries. So there's a very nice convergence within LG Chem and LG as a company to really provide expertise and really provide consumer information for the market about home batteries. So we are the right company to be listening to in terms of getting a home battery into your solar business. So life's good with LG. Again, chemical and electronics being the real core of what we're good at. LG Electronics is the big piece of pie. Again, this is the refrigerators, the appliances that we all know and think of. LG Chem is a smaller portion of that, but I want homeowners to know that the chemical side of LG is what's making this battery. We make the battery from the inside out, literally the cells, the layers in between the anode and cathode. It's our lithium recipe. We manufacture in-house. We stack the cells into modules, put those modules into either cars or to stationary boxes, and there you have it. I just like homeowners to understand that LG Chem is a major player in the market and has a lot of experience, but no one buys anything based on the battery, so no one's going to know who LG Chem is. But they'll know LG, and we should leverage that for your sales to make them easier. So lithium batteries are everywhere, and when you walk up to a homeowner, you're likely going to walk into a kitchen with LG appliances in it. So you may be at the kitchen table surrounded by LG products already, and there you are coming in with another appliance that you would think LG would make, a home battery. And what I want homeowners to know is that lithium batteries are used everywhere, and therefore LG Chem is everywhere. Again, but no one knows about it. If anyone uses Apple products, I'm pretty sure you've used an LG Chem battery. Anyone that uses laptops or tablets, we are a major supplier across major brands out there worldwide. And we're even in your garage. We do a lot of cylindrical cells for power tools applications. And we very well may be in your electric vehicle. That's hopefully in your garage as well. You can see some very prestigious brands here. Again, we don't buy anything based on the battery. So no one on this screen has a reason to market us, to leverage us, to say, hey, this is a high quality, this is the #1 lithium technology supplier, because batteries just really haven't gotten the attention until now. So selling home batteries here in the US, we have learned that home batteries, first and foremost, will sell for backup applications. The main message is be prepared. And I feel this is almost like a public safety announcement. When you're asking a homeowner to, what do you need that are essential? What do you need when the big one comes? What do you need to keep your family safe? Being prepared, you're going to be hard pressed to find any homeowner that's going to put economics over their values. And that has proven to be true. That is why home batteries are selling, such that people can withstand power outages and feel more grid resilient. Next reason why people are buying batteries is they save money. When the sun goes down, the rates go up, and if you can avoid using the grid usage during that time, you can save yourself a pretty penny. The last reason why batteries are selling is, effectively it's paired with renewables, and there's definitely a green mission out there. It's just not yet in the industry where that's the #1 selling reason. The #1 selling is for the emotional sale for backup. But I'll caveat all of this for the top 3 reasons of battery sales. First, explain to the homeowner how solar works. Let them know that if the grid goes out in the middle of the night, their solar system is not going to work the next day. I myself was one of the people that thought that if you had panels, you had power. And what a wake-up call. So how we think solar works is actually with a battery. I know sales guys that have landed deals just by asking this question. So make sure your customer knows how solar works first, because when you explain it to them, they're more likely going to realize on their own that they need a home battery. Be prepared. Natural disasters, earthquakes, Bill's gone through some hurricanes. We need power. We need DC power more than AC power, and I don't think people realize that. We use AC power to charge our DC stuff. But when it comes to LG, when it comes to a home battery, that's going to be the quality, the safety, and the reliability that people are going to depend on. LG is going to be around to protect the 10-year warranties. They're going to be around to supply their next generation home battery. We're going to be around for a long time, and it means a lot to people because we can no longer depend on our utility grid. And there's no reason to live in the 1800s again. People have options, and it comes out to be a very successful pairing with home solar. So going back up to what Bill said, I don't want to repeat too much of it, but I tell solar salespeople, ask them, what are you going to do when things go wrong? Help them prepare an emergency preparedness plan. Again, I think that's a public safety announcement. What are you going to reach for first? Who are you going to call first? What do you need for the essentials for your family to be safe for an unknown period of time without power? What they're going to do is literally fill up their backup panel, and there you go. And I really like Bill's approach of don't start with the everything under the sun and whittle away. Ask them, what do you need? Lithium and solar power is a very expensive way to power frivolous loads. In an emergency situation, you really want to be efficient and smart with your home storage system so that you can be able to power through when you don't know when the grid's going to come back. A financial reason for looking at a battery, if you had a solar system, you might be looking for a solar battery to protect the low energy bills that you've been benefiting from for a while now. But as I said before, when the sun goes down, the rates go up, and you actually need a battery in order for solar, in order so you can see a dent on your bill with solar. And most utilities, and anyone can correct me if I'm wrong, but they go up in price. The rates go up, and that has been a national trend forever. And I don't think you're going to have a hard argument with a homeowner to have, you know, future-proof yourself. You're going to buy your equipment, and the sun's free, last time I checked, so you can understand how much you're going to be paying for your energy long-term, rather than waiting for these rate hikes to come up and pull the rug out from under your feet. So introducing the LG, this is our pride and joy here in North America. It's small. We're known for our energy density. It goes on the wall. It stays there for 10 years. There's one hole and 7 wires to the entire installation. It's just a battery. A battery is a passive component in your solar system. The real magic happens in the Solis inverter. Long life, we pride ourselves, we're using automotive grade cells. What we have learned in the automotive market, which we have 2.1 million electric vehicles using that same technology, we're putting it in boxes now. And that's a lot of real life data points to know the performance of the cell so that we can be confident to stand behind the 10-year warranty. And all of these boxes are made to last at least 10 years. And I think when you're having that conversation with an LG Chem product, it's going to be a really easy argument to win that LG is safe, reliable, and we've really earned that good reputation in the consumer market because, you know, we've been there. We've been a household name for quite some time. So the RESU battery is, we call it the 10H. It's a very slim profile. It does weigh over 200 pounds, and you do need 2 people to lift it. But you'll see with any lithium battery, the metals actually weigh quite a bit. It's outdoor rated. You can install it inside or outside. The more mild the temperature, the more mild the environment around the battery, the better experience you're going to have. We don't recommend installing it in direct sunlight. We have all the safety certifications that you need for any permitting issues. And you get a very high max depth of discharge of 95% from the RESU battery. And the warranty for 10 years is 22.4 megawatt hours, and that's assuming a full depth of discharge every day for 10 years.
Lynn, we're very excited about developing a system with the RESU battery. We too believe in its reputation and its high quality. It's something that we pride ourselves on at Solis, and we want to pair up with a company that also believes those same things. Having the max peak output of 5K and up to 7K out is something that also matches our own inverters that can also peak out at 7K and can deliver as much as 6K continuous, so we can take full advantage of the output capabilities of these inverters. the max depth of discharge of 95%. For an old timer like me, like Bill, who was setting up systems with lead acid with basically a 50% depth of discharge, you just get so much more value out of these battery systems, and you're using so much more of what's on the wall at your home. And this is basically the whole solution. You have one box on the wall, your Solis hybrid inverter, and then you have your 10 or 20 kilowatt hour system right below or on the wall next to it with the LG Chem, and then your PV up on the roof with your rapid shutdown solution. Remember, this has your PLC signal generator in the inverter. So again, it's really, I think there's some value to reducing the amount of stuff on your walls, and by having both a slim inverter and a slim battery, you really are not taking up room in that garage. You're really able to still get into your car and slip past the equipment as you're going out of your garage, something like that. So a simple solution, that provides all the bells and whistles. And really, when you're selling the solution, as Lynn said, there's a lot of differentiators, and LG brings that brand name and that reliability message to you. And what Solis brings is both the big and the small inverters that you can use on either end of that size scale. And with the wide MPPT range, it allows you to use those very small PV arrays, whereas you might be restricted to a minimum of 8 on other systems. You really can do as many as 5 modules, 300 watt, let's say, on one inverter, and get a very tiny little system. Low capex, much lower than the MLPE battery solutions that you see out there. Faster commissioning and proven warranties. Solis prides themselves on having inverters out there that are older than our warranties, as does LG. They have product out there that has lived past their warranties, and that's what we're talking about here. Low drama, no truck rolls, easy to commission, and reliable service. That's what we're talking about. When that lights go out, you know that your customers are happy and safe. So a one-box solution backed up by one team. The LG team, service team is training the Solis team, so we'll be your one-stop first responder for any issues that come up with this system. Design assistance is something that we're going to get into a little bit further here with Bill in a second, but I just wanted to introduce the topic by showing you just a kind of a short chart on how to kind of tie the size of the PV array to the size of the battery. And you can see at the top of the chart here, we can use as little as a 1 or 1.5 kilowatt array, and as high as a 12 or even 14 kilowatt array in these systems. And then you can choose one of the many sizes of the RHI, what we call our high voltage hybrid inverter. And then you can get into use cases. Do you want to just set it up as a grid tie inverter, maybe add batteries later? Or do you want to get in, make sure that your off-grid priority is serviced by the system that you're going to be designing? Or are you designing a system that's going to be acting more on-grid and, providing better revenue for the system in a TOU situation? So, with that, I'd like to reintroduce Bill to talk a little bit more about your PV system design as you include battery systems. Bill? This is kind
Thanks,
of where
Terrence. Yeah, I had my mute button on there just in case there was crazy stuff going on. Anyway, thanks for that. And as we go forward on this, I know a lot of folks, and I think Lynn alluded to this, a lot of customers are going to say, oh, well, I don't know whether I want to spend the money now, because for whatever reason, they may be a little hesitant. And something to really point out is that the tax credits are also something that's waning in the residential market. And so it's really better to actually include all this stuff in your package so that you can get the tax credit that still remains in this area. And so just as a talking point with customers that might want to delay these things, certainly the unit has the capability of adding or subtracting the battery, and that's a great selling point. But I think it's probably a good idea to go ahead and try to include that battery now rather than later. Certainly from a sales point of view, that makes sense. And I'm not a sales guy, as you can obviously see, but it really does make a lot of sense to get that tax credit now rather than later. And now we're turning our attention to the system design and really focusing on what are the capabilities of the equipment. And again, setting the marketing folks aside that have already made their spiel and they've made their case for why their stuff is the best and all that. Now, what I'm telling you is stuff that can work on any person's product as long as you know what the capabilities of it are. But certainly we're focused on the Solis product today. And so you got to look at the specs of this equipment. And so for the backup specs, as you read through the manual, I just cut this directly out of the manual. You see that the rated output power is 6 kilowatts. And you think, oh, great, I can run all kinds of stuff on that. And then the maximum apparent power, what does that mean? Well, let's not go into a whole lot of details about what that means, but it's just let's say that you can't go over 7 kilowatts, which isn't that much more than the maximum continuous rated power. These things are hard stops. So the way that electronics work is that if you ask for 8 kilowatts, it says no. And the way it says no is it turns the lights off, okay? And that, to a customer, is a very abrupt and very clear message, but has a way of increasing the blood pressure of people. And so that's a rating you never want to get near. So a lot of people think, well, in the past, inverters were really expensive, and you say, hey, I want to use as much of that inverter as I possibly can. Well, nowadays, these inverters are much less expensive than they used to be. And so we want to stay well within the ratings. And so even back 20-something years ago, when we were doing Y2K systems, the prevailing wisdom of the day was always run your inverter no greater than half of its rating. And you think, well, that seems like a waste. I'm throwing away half the rating. No, you're not. If you run it at no more than half of its rating, then it has what we call surge capability. So when you turn on that garage door opener or refrigerator or whatever it is, the unit's there, it's ready to do it, it's on top of it, no problem, it handles it. If you run near the rating, the maximum rating of the inverter, and you turn on your garage door opener, because of the surge of that motor, it's going to shut the whole system down. And so that's a very, very bad situation. The other thing is we're also limited by how much energy we have in the battery. So here's the maximum power capability of the inverter. Again, you want to stay lower than half of that. So 3 kilowatts would be the maximum load that we want to carry. And then we have to determine what's our average load that we want to carry. Let's go to the next slide. Okay, so when we're talking about maximum load, well, let's talk about the kinds of loads we're going to be working with. And primarily, if not all of the loads that we're working with, unless we're running a well pump or something like that, we're going to be working with 120 volt AC loads. Okay, our inverter has a 240 volt output. So I have to basically make a little bit of an adjustment to what Terrence said about the one-box solution. It's a one-box-ish solution. Obviously, the battery.
I'll give you that, Bill. Indeed, you need the autoformer, and Solis makes their own autoformer that would go with this system.
That's right. And so if we're running 120 volt loads, and certainly the loads that really are the highest priority loads, other than maybe like a well pump or something like that, right. The ones that are the highest priority and the lowest consumption loads in the United States is when we have the split phase 240, 120 volt output type of a scenario. So we have to take the 240 volt output of the inverter and create what we call split phase 240, 120 volt power output. And we do that through an auto transformer. Some people call them autoformer just to be short. Next, we have to check the capabilities of the battery. Now, batteries generally have lots of short circuit current, and so they have plenty of capability to give surge power and stuff like that. But we do have to be careful that we stay within the realm of the battery itself. And lithium-ion batteries are somewhat unique in that they have a lot of electronics that are incorporated as part of their battery management system. So that electronics are designed to protect the battery, both in charge and in discharge, to prevent it from getting damaged, to get that life out of the battery. As you heard from Lynn, 10-year battery, full charge discharge cycles. That's unbelievable. The number of megawatt hours that they're putting out as a warranty is unheard of in the battery world. So in order to get that kind of service out of the battery, their electronics have to be exceedingly tough on the system. And so they have to basically say, okay, here's the range that you get to play with. And we're going to give you this many amps of current, and that's it. We're going to be able to, you could discharge our battery at 5 kilowatts. And somebody might say, well, shoot, my inverter can run at 6 kilowatts. Why can't it run at 6 kilowatts? Certainly the battery chemistry can handle 6 kilowatts. But let's think about it for a moment. If we have a 10 kilowatt hour battery and we run it at 5 kilowatts, we'll deplete that battery 100% in a little under 2 hours.
Right.
Okay. That's 2 hours of party, and then there's no party. The party's over. Everybody goes home. And so that's a bad idea. I want the party to go on. I want the party to last. And so in order to make the party last, you're going to have to reduce your power consumption. And that's why I say 3 kilowatts max, which is well within the capabilities of the battery, gives you plenty of capability on the upper end for the maximum discharge power, which matches perfectly with the Solis product in this case. But you want the average consumption to be quite a bit lower than that, about a 1/3 of the half. And so now we're down to 1 kilowatt average load. That's refrigerator turning on and off, the furnace fan turning on and off, all these things turning on and off, average load of 1 kilowatt. So what's a 1 kilowatt load on a 10 kilowatt hour battery? The math is really simple on that for those of you who are challenged with math. That's 10 divided by 1, which is 10 hours. Okay.
Is that
so
10 hours, Bill?
Hours. What's that?
Is that 10 hours, Bill?
That's 10 hours there.
Did
Terrence.
I get it? Yeah, all right.
You got it right there, buddy. Well, it's 9.3 hours. If we were to be technical, because we see on the specs there. Don't go on to the next one. Let's look at the spec sheet. We need to be familiar with that spec sheet. Now, obviously, the marketing department, named this battery the 10H, but they round it up, right? And all marketing departments do that, and that's okay. We smart people can say, okay, it's almost 10 kilowatt hours, and we're just going to give that to you. It's 9.3 kilowatt hours of usable energy. Okay, that's what they're allowing. The electronics are allowing you to use that 9.3, and that is within the warranty range. So that means that if you run a 1 kilowatt load, you will get 9.3 hours worth of runtime on that. Now, 9.3 hours is a really good number because that might be enough to get you through to the next morning. Now, here, if we have a power outage in the evening, let's say it's 6 or 7 o'clock at night, the good news is that we go to bed at some time, hopefully around 10 or 11 o'clock at night. So we're running from 6 o'clock in the evening to 10 o'clock in the evening. And so we expect our load to be higher in that range when the lights are on, when everybody's watching TV, on the internet, but whatever, playing video games. And then hopefully around 10 or 11 o'clock at night, if you look at a typical load of a house, it drops off dramatically. And now we're down to things like the refrigerator cycling on and off. And we have things like the furnace fan, if it's wintertime, might be cycling on and off, things like that. And so through the night, we may have an average load that's more like about 400 watts rather than 1,000 watts. And what we're trying to do is make it to sunrise. Because if we could only make it to sunrise, then we can start recharging our battery. And that's the whole concept of why we have 10 kilowatt hour batteries. And of course, as it was pointed out earlier, we could actually, if we have a customer that wants more, you could have 2 10 kilowatt hour batteries for 20 kilowatt hours. You can run them in parallel. But with 1 10 kilowatt hour battery, we'd like to make it through the night. We're only going to make it through the night if our average load is under 1 kilowatt hour, or 1 kilowatt, I should say. If it's more than 1 kilowatt through the night, the lights are going to go out about 4 o'clock in the morning, the customer is going to wake up. They're not going to have power. They may have depleted the battery to the point where they can't restart it. So that's a whole other thing we want to stay away from. Good design says we never fully deplete the battery. Now, LG Chem and others may do things to prevent over discharge in their electronics, but we have to be very careful that we don't over discharge the battery. There are some batteries that will not recover in the morning if you over discharge them. So we always want to make sure that we're within the range that we can operate. Now here the next thing is physical layout.
Hold on, hey Bill, I just want to do a little public service announcement. We've come up against we've come up to an hour now, and we've just got a few more slides to go. If you want to hang out with us for a few minutes, we're just going to go through this last bit of slides on installation and service. And so thanks for hanging with us. Go ahead, Bill.
Great. Sorry about that. I know we're running a little bit long, and it's because I probably talked too much. But anyway, the physical layout's very, very important. Here's just a little sketch of a project I'm doing on my house, and this is an 8-foot by 8-foot section of wall, and we have to look at the manufacturer's instructions for clearances to sides, top, bottom, things like that. And so in the middle of the picture is the Solis HV inverter. And then below it, to the left, is the auto transformer. The auto transformer doesn't have any switches in it, anything like that. It does not have to be at eye level. It doesn't have to be anywhere. We can put it down low, like you see here, and run our wiring to that to achieve our 120 volt power. And then over to the right, it doesn't have to be physically in that picture, but I show the sub panel that where we're going to have the loads that we have, that we're running on the backup power system. And then of course, on the far left is the battery. And the battery is roughly about 3 foot tall by 30 inches wide. And we see the spacings are adequate between all the pieces of equipment. And of course, on the LG Chem battery, to the left of that battery, we would have to have a 12-inch space according to the manufacturer's instructions. This is just the wall space that it's taking up. There would still have to be space over to the left. And we put that stuff up at eye level so we can look at the readouts from the nice large 7-inch screen. I'm turning it back over to you, Terrence.
All right, thanks, Bill. I put that picture there because I'm not sure that they installed that battery at the right height there, Bill. But
that's right.
You don't necessarily need to do this all alone. You know, there are services that are available from both LG and from Solis. And Lynn, you've got a certified installer program going, and a couple of people that listeners of this webinar can go to. Is that right?
Yes, you do need to be certified by LG to purchase or install the product. Warranties are avoided otherwise. So we only sell through authorized RESU distributors, so please know where your battery is being sourced from. It's very important because you don't want to get a product that's already been pre-degraded before you got your hands on it. So only buy through an authorized distributor. Get RESU certified. It's easy to do. It's online. You can get, I think the average test time is under 10 minutes, and you can reach out anytime to get connected with that.
Fantastic. I wanted to kind of bring together the two companies and talk just briefly about the kinds of services that we can provide. And really that third bullet there, the small details can be addressed before install. It's so important that, you know, if you are putting in a system like this and you are experienced in putting in batteries and PV, you know, these are not overly complicated systems to do. That's one of the value propositions of doing a Solis LG system is the simplicity of install and commissioning. But I'll tell you, it's the small things really that sometimes catch you. And by talking to our teams with a little bit of experience, you can really make sure that something doesn't catch you while you're commissioning or your homeowner is taking ownership of it. Now, we can also talk a little bit about how our two customer support teams are collaborating, and that's really a great benefit, I think, to everybody who's going to be calling into the Solis line to get RMA information, to track a ticket, or to get some advice on how to fix a problem. So it's those two companies together offering these services. You've got to take advantage of that, especially as you're trying to grow your business in this. Make sure you take advantage of the free services that both these companies offer. And with that, I'd kind of like to turn it back over to Bill just to do a little wrap up here. And Bill, just close us out here before we get into a Q&A.
Right. Yeah. So just as a kind of some wrap-up items, obviously the competitors out there, everybody knows who they are, and got to be a little careful about what I say because I work with everybody. But we have to be careful in setting expectations based on a firm understanding of what the equipment limitations are, and what this equipment will give them is certainly key. And open-ended expectations are never satisfied. Trying to do it always ends in disaster and sometimes lawsuits. I mean, literally, I'm involved. I have been involved in lawsuits over these things because people just didn't understand what the capabilities were. Keeping the lights on makes a happy customer. Not giving them everything they want. Darkness is always your fault as the contractor. It's always your fault, regardless, even though it may clearly be the customer's fault. Under promise, over deliver. Absolutely important. In backup power, again, the PV system, load shifting, all that kind of stuff, that can be done. Customer really doesn't get real involved in it, but when the lights go out, that's when their blood pressure goes up. Just because competitors say they can do it all means they're in the sales and marketing department. They're not in the real world department. They're simply speaking from ignorance. That's all I can say about that, is that there are large companies out there right now doing whole house backup with equipment that is absolutely not capable of providing whole house backup.
Exactly. And
then they have documents that say, yes, if you plug too much stuff into this thing, it's going to crash the inverter, and we've notified you of that, and they wash their hands of it, and then they tell me that they don't have problems in the field, and I tell them the reason they don't have problems in the field is because they've never had power outages where their systems are. Okay, because the reality is every time the power goes out for a lengthy period of time, we're talking about more than a couple of hours, every one of those systems that doesn't have very defined load profiles to them and very defined loads connected to them, every single one of them will go down. And I can guarantee you that. Lots and lots of experience. 100% failure rate on those things. So that's why we're that's why I'm super tough on this issue. In the future, we're going to have technologies that allow us to do load shedding instantaneously to stay within the capabilities of our inverter and our battery system. That'll be great. And there's some products out there that are in beta tests right now. They say that they're commercially available. They're not telling the truth. Okay, they're coming out. And within the next 6 months to a year, we're going to have some really exciting products coming on the market. Be very careful. These are beta products. They're not ready for prime time yet, and they will become ready for prime time. If you want to get on the team with these companies that are supplying these products, realize that you're going to have a lot of callbacks. There's going to be lots of issues in the early going, but in the next year or two, we're going to have some really exciting products that would enable you to try to back up a whole house and then shed load as necessary. But we're not there yet. And if you do it wrong up front, all you're going to be doing is visiting that customer over and over again, and they're going to be telling their friends of how bad you are, and it's just not going to be a pretty situation. If you don't believe me, do it your own way, and you'll find out that I'm right. So thanks all. Sorry for being, give you the real scoop, but it's better to be prepared than not.
That's right, and we believe you, Bill. Indeed, this is really, it's about matching your customers' needs and expectations with the equipment and explaining to them, as Lynn said, how solar works, what their expectations should be before they, start dreaming about something that their system cannot do. We've run out of time on this webinar, but we're perfectly willing to take some questions and answers if some people have some questions. Travis, do we got any questions that came over the line?
Yeah, I got one here for Lynn. I got a few for Lynn. How do they get LG Chem certified?
Send me an email, and I will direct you to our RESU resource page. And if you're working with any RESU product, you want to bookmark this page, and it has all the information on getting certified, recording webinars, battery information, inverter information, DOT information. I can get a link out to everyone.
Excellent.
Lynn, are your batteries considered dry or wet, and do they need periodic watering?
That's a question that's related to lead acid batteries, and so the answer to that is no. There's no O&M situations that you need to do with the RESU battery. It just needs to hang there.
Exactly. And also, do you have service and sales in Mexico?
Not yet in Mexico. If you have opportunities down there, I'm very interested in the market, but not yet. Right now we have the RESU 10H for the United States.
Okay, a few more questions. How do you set up the inverter for time of use? Terrence, can you take that one?
Sure. There is, as you can see on that screen there, a large color LCD right on the front, and you can use that to set up the time of use. And what the inverter does is it essentially you can segment different parts of your 24-hour clock into medium, high, and low regarding the pricing for during those periods. And so you can set up different segments so that you can ideally match or just perfectly match the times when your rates start to go up and the time that the rates go down. So that's actually programmable right there on the screen.
Awesome. Thanks, Terrence. And we have a lot of questions about, is there a module level rapid shutdown solution built into the inverter?
Yes, there's a power line carrier signal transmitter in the inverter, and then you can use a variety of different types of receivers on the roof. We're currently using the AP Smart product, and there's others out there that are SunSpec compliant, and those are the PLC signal generator that we have is a SunSpec generator, so anything that speaks that language is compatible with the inverter.
And a question for Bill is, could this be an off-grid inverter?
Could this be an off-grid inverter? Yeah, certainly. The term multimodal or multi-mode inverter means that it can operate in both modes, or the two common modes are current mode, where we're connected to the grid and we're operating as a current source, and then voltage source, which is operating in standalone mode. So standalone mode, or island mode it's called, is the mode that an off-grid home is always in because it doesn't have a grid to connect to it. And certainly this inverter has the capability of both. The only reason you would buy a multimodal inverter for an off-grid application might be because of all the features that are in it. Certainly there's lots of great features, including rapid shutdown and things like that. But also you may be looking into the future to interconnect it with other sources. So that has the capability of interconnecting with other sources, or possibly the utility grid advancing to your location and then being able to connect into the grid when the utility is local and inexpensive to connect to.
Excellent. So many questions here.
Let's take one more, Travis.
Okay. This person uses SolarEdge today, and he wants to know, is there any advantages of switching over?
Well, I'll take the first half of this. Lynn, you might be able to join in, but I mean, let's face it right off the bat, there's some potential margin for you as an installer. And then secondly is the relative simplicity of the system, in that it's a fast commissioning time, 5 minutes. And the inverter essentially has the RESU, it's prepared for the RESU inverter, and so the RESU battery, and so you'll see it's easy to match the two products together. So I'd say ease of install and commissioning, along with good capex, and then the reliability of the two companies is going to give you a better feeling when it comes to reliability, no drama, that sort of thing. So I'd say those are the top 3 reasons why you want to get into this solution.
Yeah, and Terrence, I'll just add to that a little bit. A little bit behind the scenes of things, we've learned a lot in our first couple of years on the market, and I will say I've been very impressed and pleased with the Solis team on their persistence on us to train them on the RESU battery. If anyone has done any RESU troubleshooting out in the field, most of the magic happens in the inverter, and it's very important, and it's a very big differentiator when the inverter service team is getting trained up on our product in order to be able to provide faster response times out in the field. So just wanted to throw that out there from a servicing standpoint, because operations in your business is pretty fundamental no matter how good the product is. That it's been a really good experience thus far, and I fully anticipate having a different experience in the field.
Well, I think that that's about as much as we can do today. Thank you, Lynn. I really appreciate you joining us on this webinar today. It was great content, and you can see all of Lynn's contact points up there. Again, she was very generous in offering, email her to get some of that more information on how you become authorized dealers and installers of this product. Lynn, any closing comments?
I do hope to hear from installers. Please reach out with questions and get feedback. I'm happy to have discussions about, I know the inverter piece is very important in your business, so do reach out. I'm happy to have conversations, and I really appreciate everyone taking the time to hear what we have to say. Thank you.
Thanks, Lynn. Bill, any closing comments? Thanks again for your contribution today. It was great having you on the webinar again.
Yeah, it's just spend the time, really spend, I'd say, a half a day working on what loads are going to be operating on these systems, pre-test them. You can know exactly what the loads are, turn everything on that's going to be on those circuits, and then once you get it all set up, don't just assume it's going to work. Basically dry run the heck out of these things. Learn from this process. This is going to be part of the PV industry for the foreseeable future, folks. So this is not like a passing fad or fantasy that's coming and going. Backup power is going to be part of every PV system moving forward into the future. And because we're so reliant on electricity for our lifestyle now, way more than we were back at Y2K, way more. Backup power is really a necessity, and installers need to know and be confident on how to do it and do it well, and a bunch of different ways of how to do it. And in this very simple, straightforward way, in the early going now is really where you have to be. And in the future, we'll have some great load shedding products, but they're not there yet. And so let's do it right from the beginning, learn a lot, become experienced, become an expert, and you'll have happy customers that are really excited about their product rather than angry at you and calling lawyers. And that's really the important differentiator.
We don't want that at all. And then just in closing, thank you again, everybody, for spending the extra time with us today. We ran a little long, but please feel free to contact any three of these offices to get more information about battery and PV systems that really offer such a nice suite of features for your customers. I'm really happy. Me and Bill, when we started in the industry, it was all about batteries and PV, and now we've come full circle again with even better technologies. So thanks again for your time, and we look forward to talking with every one of you. Remember, you also earned a NABCEP point for today's attendance, and again, thanks for all of our NABCEP installers who attended today. Have a great day, everybody.